How did NBA Youngboy beat the odds and become arguably rap's biggest superstar? Now, NBA Youngboy has simply just been the voice of the youth for the past 7 to 8 years, and it seems like he's finally getting his recognition over the past 3. Now, Youngboy facing a lot of technical issues such as being in prison and family issues. He's kind of haven't really been around his fans for the past 5 years, and that's why he's never been on tour. Now, when you look at Youngboy's life, of course, Youngboy has been through the worst of the worst shit. Like, he's been in jail for attempted murder. He's been in prison for the house arrest shooting of his whole music video when he had guns on set. And he's almost even been shot at when it came to Rolling Loud in 2019. But Youngboy has simply just become the most prominent rapper that we've ever seen. And I feel like the reason why Youngboy is so prominent and people love him so much is because he's one of the most vulnerable street rappers that we've ever seen. You know, usually our street rappers are people who talk that thug talk but are afraid to say how they really feel. And the melodic side of Youngboy opening up into his life of how he lost his cousin, or should I say his friend Lil Dave, when he was 12, how his father went to jail for 55 years, how his mom raised him but he lived with his grandma because his mom had other boyfriends. Like, Youngboy has been very vulnerable about his life to the point where a lot of people can relate to him. It's like a lot of people grew up in the struggle. A lot of people, let's say, didn't have fathers, and now a lot of people can relate to growing up in the streets. And Youngboy has just been the number one voice of the youth because of his authenticity and vulnerability. Now, recently, Youngboy has announced going on a 27-city show tour, starting off in Detroit, or should I say Dallas, Texas, ending in his hometown of Louisiana. And this is the most hype thing that we've seen in hip-hop all year. Now, we've seen the Drake vs. Kendrick Lamar, and that was a year ago. And hip-hop has pretty much just been dead since then. But ever since YB came back and he posted this green picture on his story saying, "I'm ready," and then he's posting like little snippets here and there of his music, "I'm Calling," as well as "Where I've Been." And then he posted the final flyer of "Make America Slime Again," you know, King Slime, I guess, not Young Thug, but you know what's going on. And Youngboy is going on tour, and this is like the most hyped thing of this year. Now, when it comes to Youngboy, I feel like it's important that we analyze how really messed up his life has been and how he really came to success from literally nothing. 38 Baby and Chapua from the north side of Louisiana, Baton Rouge. Now, Youngboy came into the game as a troubled kid from, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He was 16. He was involved in a drive-by shooting, which pretty much had him in jail for some time. He went on the run. He was extradited all the way back from Austin, Texas to Louisiana. And then he was in jail for a little bit of time. Now, he got out of jail because he was a minor, of course. And pretty much him signing this deal with Atlantic Records is what gave him his big break of him, leaving the streets because he had some money. But the thing about Youngboy is from the streets, no dad in his life, and didn't really have the best financial guidance like a lot of rappers, not even just rappers, just people in general don't have. And then when he went to go live that rapper lifestyle, I'm not going to say he made bad decisions, but the record label definitely took advantage of it. Atlantic Records signed NBA Youngboy for $2 million over the past 5 years from 2017 to 2022, and they easily have made hundreds of millions of dollars off YB because of YB's authenticity and the amount of shit that he goes through. When it comes to rappers, I feel like rappers like the only profession when you're in jail, you're kind of more of a commodity because people can't see you. And I feel like that's what made Youngboy so hype. You look at someone like Playboi Carti, he teases music, but he doesn't really drop. But I wouldn't even say Playboi Carti was as hype as Youngboy because Youngboy, we physically couldn't even see him. Even when it came to the whole situation with, King Von and Quando Rondo in Atlanta when the whole shooting happened, I feel like Quando Rondo and them, or should I say King Von and them, really wanted to get at Youngboy, but Youngboy was in jail. He was on house arrest, and he had so many things that were just happening that was going wrong in his life. Now, when I look at the Youngboy era of the 2018 AI Youngboy, Until Death Call My Name, Realer Decided, Youngboy gave us 5 hot albums throughout the whole past year. Like, we were spoiled. Like, as rap fans, we were simply spoiled. Like, he gave us so much hit songs from that whole 2018, just that year alone. And then he gave us the 2019 AI Youngboy 2, then 2020 Still Steppin', Still Flexin', so a 10 Talk, or not 10 Talk, but AI Youngboy 2, 38 Youngboy 2, 38 Baby 2, I'm sorry. And then Youngboy just gave us so much consistency and authenticity that's why we love YB. When I was looking at these YB tickets, I'm saying, damn, YB charging like an arm and a leg, but I understand it. You haven't been around for 5 years. You really haven't been able to show face and really interact with your fans ever. It's like you feel like every time you turn around, Youngboy's in jail. Now, the biggest thing that I felt about Youngboy's tour that just really was going to be like a full circle moment is people have just never seen Youngboy on stage. Like, well, I don't want to say never, but he went on tour in 2019, 2020. Most of us are hella young, didn't have bread, so that doesn't really count. But like over the past 5 years, it's just been where's YB, where's YB. We've seen all his counterparts like Lil Durk, Rod Wave, Lil Baby, Future, everyone who's like kind of in his class, and I feel like Youngboy's kind of above them if you ask me, go on tour, but we've never seen YB go on tour. We've never seen what the Youngboy, the Contrell Golden experience would be like. And now it's time. Like, it's time. Youngboy is someone who I would consider, honestly, the Tupac of our generation. Some people might say that's a reach, but I generally don't think that, because when we look at the fan appeal of how vulnerable people are because they listen to Youngboy's music, and how some people walk bow-legged. Some people will say slime or speak a different way, or you heard me, like adopt that whole Louisiana personality. I feel like Youngboy has really just made it, I don't want to say cool to be street, but he's really said a lot of things about him and embraced a lot of things about his past and his upbringing that made people really appreciate his music. Going through the amount of things that YB has been through, we've already talked about Youngboy being involved in the drive-by shooting, but the next thing that was really crazy to me was when Youngboy was involved in that 2019 Rolling Loud shooting. He was out Rolling Loud, and someone tried to shoot at his camp and pretty much tried to shoot at him and kill him, and they missed, and his team shot back and killed someone innocent. And you've listened to the song No Understand from Still Flexin' Still Steppin' that came out in 2020. Youngboy would talk about, cops come and take your child away, putting guns to the face because nobody's safe. And YB just been, I feel like YB just one of the most authentic rappers that we have in today's generation, and that's why people love YB. It's the vulnerability, it's the music, it's the honesty. And like I said, Youngboy, Lil Wayne, and Tupac are the only three rappers to go number one behind bars. So it really just has high hopes for this Make America Slime Again tour, because Youngboy doesn't really have to do too much. He just has to show up, be himself, and sing the songs that we grew up on, and the crowd's going to give him love. The biggest reason why this whole trial is something crazy is because Youngboy has always been involved in some form of legal trouble. Now, recently what happened in 2023 was Youngboy was involved in a drug prescription ring out in Utah. Now we see he lives in Utah and Salt Lake City. I'm not even sure if it's Salt Lake City, but I know it's in Utah, on the Gravedigger Mountain. If you see people go to like Gillian Wallow or Academics or even Bootleg Kev, people are saying like, yo, the altitude is so crazy up there because he's literally so high in the sky on the mountains, and he has all these controlled guards, almost like some Navy SEAL security, because, he had to leave BR, the reason why he was obviously out there. The biggest thing that people I feel overlook is one of the reasons why Youngboy actually is on house arrest, and that's because of his whole gun case that he had in 2020 in Louisiana. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'll just break it down, keep it very simple. Youngboy was filming a music video in Louisiana, his hometown, BR, and he had them Blickies, them Dracos, he had the members with him. Simple as that. He had the members with him. He was filming a music video, and the cops kind of pulled up on him and like arrested everybody. And Youngboy is a convicted felon. You can't have guns. Second Amendment type shit, but you know how that shit goes. And Youngboy kind of got arrested, and there was multiple DNA profiles on the gun, kind of like similar to like the little Tory Megan Thee Stallion shit. But basically, the whole case was this Youngboy's gun, and was his fingerprints on the gun. And now this led to a whole operation of NBA Youngboy, should I say, Operation Never Free Again, because Youngboy's NBA is never broke again. Nasty work by the whole feds, and they took YB to trial and lost. Youngboy had two gun cases. He had one in Louisiana, one in California. The California one was because I think he was driving around in California, and the police thought he had something in his car, and he went on a whole goose chase and ran away. The BR one that happened in Louisiana, he was just on the street. The neighbors called, hey, like, there's too many ninjas in my neighborhood. Probably a white man, but yeah, that's how it is. And they say, hey, there's someone from the music video that there's a lot of guns, etc., etc., and your YB can't be around guns because he's a felon. When it comes to street rappers, police really look at rappers as one of the biggest influences when it comes to violence and pretty much kind of controlling the youth, because a lot of us look to rappers not for personal information or political or even anything outside of things that we can't do for ourselves, but rappers do have influence. So the fact that Youngboy is this pistol-toned Louisiana rapper who people love because he's authentic, the police didn't like that. Not even the police, the feds didn't like that. So there's a reason why when Youngboy had his whole gun case in California of him, running from the police because they were randomly following him, he went to trial and beat it because they didn't find his DNA prints on the gun. And that gave the feds the biggest L they've ever had in years, because we all know the saying, the feds have a 97% win rate, and because most people plead out, because federal time is mandatory. Like, if you get convicted, you have to serve 20 years for certain things. A gun charge probably might be 5 to 10, but Youngboy has been pretty much battling the legal system for the past 5 years, and he's kind of been coming out on top. Even with Youngboy having the whole drug prescription ring, the fact that he obviously had people in his family, or should I say friends and associates, go and pick up drugs under fake aliases and all throughout Utah and different cities in Utah and the neighboring cities in Utah and bring it back to him. Now, Youngboy got busted when the police kind of did a raid and found out a bunch of shit under names that just wasn't him. It's like, your name is Contrell Galden. Like, who is, Gwendolyn Smith? Like, who are these white people names or other people names that are simply not yours? So that's why Youngboy obviously, had to take that plea deal. And he had Drew Finland, one of the greatest lawyers ever. Like, this guy, I guarantee when the channel grows, if there's one person I want to interview, it'll be Drew Finland, because, like, the people that he's represented, from Cardi B, or maybe not Cardi B is someone I should use in this context because it's more street terms, but he's representing Lil Durk in his murder for hire case. He's represented Gucci Mane before. He's represented the Baby before. People who are in some real shit, you know, like people who are really about that life and they happen to be rappers. So Youngboy literally had Jude Finley as lawyer and got him a 23-month sentence that literally has been commuted because he went to jail, I believe, September last year, and he came out in March. So he was only there for 6 months. He still has, I believe, 5 years of supervised release, which just means, hey, don't do nothing stupid because if you do, we have to put you back. But with Youngboy going on tour, it's going to just put him in a more positive environment, keeping him away from all the bullshit. I really have high expectations for this tour. I feel like it's going to be one for the books for sure. And Youngboy is just finally back to save hip-hop in 2025 after a year 2024, which left us all, you know, pretty much breathless, pause. And 2025 has kind of been off to a little rough start with nothing really as monumental. Thank you for watching this video. Jared the Star. I'll see you in the next one.